Welcome to the Ingram Micro B2B Tech Talk podcast. We bring you the insights you need on IoT, AI, and the future of technology.
Today we're going to be talking about one of the most important business drivers that's on the lips of everyone, artificial intelligence. We have Matt Armstrong-Barnes, Chief Technologist for Artificial Intelligence at HPE. And today we're going to discuss how we can position AI solutions and what's driving the adoption. So welcome, Matt, and thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
So, first question, maybe the most easy one, maybe the most difficult, I'm not sure. Most people will probably have an idea of what this is, but is it the correct idea? What is AI?
Right, okay, so that's an interesting one and one that I encounter quite a lot. So if we think about AI and Gen AI, which are two topics that are really top of mind in lots of organizations. So artificial intelligence is the use of algorithmically driven techniques to find hidden patterns in data. And there are lots of different AI techniques that you can employ, whereas generative AI is around the creation of digital assets. So they're actually trying to tackle different problems. And I see it quite a lot of when organizations are tackling AI, they're putting AI and Gen AI together and trying to use use cases that are fit for one against the other. So it is about choosing the most appropriate tool from your toolkit to tackle the type of challenges that you're looking to address.
Why would I want to deploy Gen AI on-prem? And what is the process around that?
So generative AI, well, we're all seeing it. It's hit common parlance probably in the past couple of years. To give you an idea, generative AI techniques around GPT, generative pre-trained transformers. So transformer-based technology came out in like 2017 and it went generative in 2018. And when we think about the creation of digital assets, the capability for machines to do that existed in the 1970s. So it's not really a new technology. However, it has evolved significantly in the past couple of years.
And this is and the chat GPT is probably the thing that everyone associates with AI.
Oh,
and that's for the almost everyone can use that, right?
Yep.
So how does that translate into the business world?
Yeah, so I think lots of organizations start off with a ChatGPT style approach. So they go, right, okay, I want to get benefit of this technology. They start using ChatGPT and organizations become a little bit frustrated. And that frustration is driven by a couple of things. So firstly, they've lost some control and they don't have the capability to understand how a large language model hosted by somebody else arrives at the answer that it can arrive at. I'll give you an example. So if I create a digital asset, I am by very nature creating something, and because due to the process of creation, it might be wrong. So large language models do something called hallucination, which is they make stuff up. And that's actually what we want them to do. In a business context, every large language model hallucinates, which means there is a possibility, and that's based on a probability of that information that you're getting back being incorrect. Meaning everything that you get back from a large language model hosted, generative AI hosted by something else, you have to fact check.
Yeah.
Because you don't know if it's right or wrong. So putting your faith in something that is hosted by somebody else has a chance of being incorrect. If you pull it inside your own firewall and deploy on-prem, you have complete control over that. So you can choose the models that you're going to deploy. You mentioned ChatGPT, everyone's heard of that. Nobody's heard of all of the other language models that you can make use of and how you can pull them on-prem and how you can use your organizational data inside your security perimeter with a large language model that you can then have explainability, because when you ask a question of your large language model, it's using your data and it can explain how it arrived at the answer it arrived at, because it can link back to your originating data.
So you use the large language model, but put your own data in it and train it based on your factual information that you provide. And then that then is used for the benefit of driving the business.
Yeah, so I'll clarify a little bit, because you're not actually training your data. So if you think about generative AI usage as being a pyramid. Right at the top of the pyramid are the people who are designing the neural networks specifically for language. Incredibly highly skilled, massive amounts of computational power in order to drive that creation. Next up, we have something called fine-tuning, which is how I take my data and train it into a large language model. Again, highly skilled. I need to understand the originating foundational model and how my data can be applied to it. And again, it's very, very computationally intensive. Drop down a level, we have orchestration, which is how I can take my data and a language model that I've got and put the two together. I'll come back to that and explain it in a second. And then right at the bottom, we've got consumption, which is how I call just an API. And that API takes me to a hyperscaler-based large language model. And in that situation, all I've really got control of are things called top K and temperature.
Right.
When it comes to orchestration, I can do this thing called retrieval augmented generation. That's an industry-wide term, which is how I take my data and put it into a knowledge store. And the easiest way of describing this is, imagine I put it into a knowledge store, but the knowledge store doesn't speak a language. What I need is a language model to translate for me. So I ask a question of my language model. The language model speaks the language of the knowledge store, gets the information back, and translates it back into a language for me to understand. Now, whenever that happens, it's adding its knowledge of language with my data. And as a result, I get that explainability of how the language model arrived at the answer it arrived at, but without the significant computational overhead of training it into the multi-billion parameter language model, meaning my computational overhead is significantly reduced. And it to the point where I can run multiple language models. My capability to turn my data into a knowledge store is well defined and understood, and as a result, that becomes a much easier process to go through. It's inside my firewall, so I'm in complete control, and I also get something called guardrails. So if you think about it, if you ask a language model that somebody else is hosting, you're not really in control. Yeah. So it might well be that you don't want something that you've deployed yourself to talk about employees. It's not something you want because it might have access to some information. So with guardrails, you can control the type of questions it's just going to say, sorry, I'm not going to answer that. You can make sure that it responds in a right sequence. So instead of saying you need to perform step 1, 3, 2, 4, 5, it says, well, actually, because of guardrails, you need to respond with step 1, then step 2, then step 3, then step 4, then step 5.
And that's a huge responsibility, really,
yes.
when you consider the ramifications of going off-piste with asking whatever question and not having any limitations on what that answer could be.
Exactly. And that's what you get with on-prem deployments of Gen AI.
Yeah, cool. I think I need some guardrails sometimes.
Yeah.
So what are the use cases that you're seeing gaining the most traction?
So I think in the artificial intelligence space, I'm actually sorry to be a bit controversial.
Let's get controversial.
Yes,
we love it.
I'm not a fan. Everybody's talking about use cases in the AI world, and everyone says, "Oh, it's all about what use cases can we derive." In order to do anything with AI or generative AI, you need data.
Right.
So if you have an understanding of the data that you're going to use to find the hidden patterns in, then you need to focus on your data first. If organizations are talking to you about use cases, it probably means they've got a use case they're trying to sell you.
Right.
And you can have the best use case in the world if you don't have the right data in the right location, with the right velocity, with the right variety, you can't execute against the use case anyway.
So rubbish in, rubbish out, right? That's the old adage.
Absolutely. So looking at it from a data perspective and then using that as the vehicle for driving your use cases is critical. And also we see lots of organizations with data locked away in silos where it becomes problematic.
So it's a question of getting the data that you want into one, let's call it a lump, and then allowing that to be utilized in that way. So how is I'm guessing that could be a problematic in terms, but that gives us an opportunity for as HPE salespeople for storage refresh, things like that, to consolidate, moving away from the cloud, having it all, as we mentioned before about, having the security and the guardrails that should be in place. So having that data in-house on-prem does potentially lend itself to some refresh opportunities as well. So I'm always up to try and sell some more HPE kits. So if that's a good opportunity there, then that's something that our partners should absolutely be aware of when customers are confronting them with an AI type solution. They need to be aware of the everything that's in play. What happens then? What do we, how do they approach an AI solution?
A lot of conversations I have with customers start off with AI, and I talk to them and I say, awesome. You do know in order to do AI, you need some data. You need the data in the right place. So I take them from an AI conversation pretty much straight into a data conversation. And obviously, you do need to look at where things are stored. You need to look at what's happening from a storage perspective. Once you've had that conversation with a customer, which is a conversation that lots of people are more familiar with having, and as a result, it can drive more value for our end customers, you then take them into the compute conversation. Okay, you do know this doesn't run on traditional enterprise compute. You need acceleration in order to reduce the length of time it's going to take you to produce the models or use the models you're going to use. Also, you need a software stack. You need a layered architecture with software on top of it that is specific to accelerate your AI initiatives. And then potentially you need some services on top of that. So that enables you to build an architectural approach. And instead of tackling it from an AI down, you can go from storage up.
Yeah.
Up through the layers and take the customer on a journey to help them understand, right, okay, here's how we as a collaboration of partners can achieve greater outcomes, because AI is absolutely a team sport. It's all about getting all of the right parts of an organization engaged to help identify the use cases that match the data that you've got that are ultimately going to map to a real business problem.
So there's a lot of moving parts in this, and I think it's pretty clear that not one vendor is going to have a complete solution. So this is really about having those conversations and making sure that everyone is aware, all the stakeholders are aware that there's multiple layers of conversations and projects that need to be undertaken before you can get to the nirvana of the deployment.
Yep.
Do you find that people are just saying, I want an AI?
Absolutely. I get. So what I find is, AI is a tool, and the number of CIOs, CDOs, CXOs, and they've got this massive hammer with the word artificial intelligence on it, and they're desperately looking at nails. And they absolutely need help from their ecosystem of partners to help understand how to do AI. Because if you do it wrong, it's going to take you a long time. You're going to create things that nobody's going to use. There's all sorts of challenges and pitfalls that you can fall into that are not, or that are dissimilar from using traditional techniques for building out systems.
Yeah.
And as a result, that's where they need the ecosystem of partners to play in that.
Yeah.
And whether or not you're a partner who's really strong in the storage space, for example, talking to a customer about you need data. Right, okay. When you start having those conversations, the very first thing you need to do in building out a data strategy is evaluate some of the storage estate.
Yeah.
And then you can definitely go in terms of improved value conversations with customers about what they can do with their storage, because they might not necessarily know that some of the data they need to use in their AI initiatives is locked away on, common problem out of support equipment, or it doesn't run fast enough, or things along those lines. So absolute great conversation for customer, for partners who want to go into that space, and they're adding value because they're helping organizations get ready to deploy AI.
Yeah.
And then if you specialize in compute, great. It's the accelerators, bringing in the right acceleration technology with the right libraries and frameworks wrapped around it. Huge accelerator, de-risks AI projects, and means that you are avoiding the risk of building inefficient AI systems, which ultimately are going to cost you more in the long term. And then if you're in the sort of more consulting or services space, absolutely, customers need help in building out their AI strategies, their data strategies, making sure they're aligned, getting business buy-in to what they're trying to do, and then identifying what those business problems are, evaluating all the tools that are in front of them and saying, actually, that's a nail, that's an AI problem.
Yeah.
Because AI is great at specific problems. If you use AI to tackle the wrong problem, it really is a sledgehammer cracking a nut.
Yeah.
And that's where organizations of all sizes and shapes, I talk to from the smallest to the largest organizations across the HPE and partner portfolio, and I talk to them a lot about choosing the most appropriate technologies to tackle their real business challenges.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I think what I'm getting here is that, you know, we're looking at the traditional method. I want something. Here's a quote. There's your price. We're going to buy it.
Yep.
That's out of the window. We're not going to be able to put any pricing on the table until we have absolutely established where that organisation is.
Yep.
And where their journey needs to start from before we can even start talking about how much it's going to cost. We need to understand the readiness of that organisation before we even get into the pounds, how much it's going to cost.
I think the customers to really look for. So I spoke to one customer and they told me they've got 700 AI use cases. It was a bit like, okay, we find customers who get caught in this ideation utopia.
Yeah.
You know, what can AI do for me? Well, it can pretty much do whatever you want. So as a result, they're sort of stuck in this utopian world, and it's going to take them a while to get out of. And they can burn lots of time trying to find that.
Yeah.
If you've got organizations who have, you know, recruited data scientists or people analyzing data, they're prime targets, or customers who've identified a small number of use cases.
Yeah.
If you've got people who are working on data science initiatives, then they need acceleration. And as a result, because everyone talks about data scientists, they're science, so they're experimenting with data.
Yeah.
You know, they're adding bits together to try and create reactions. And as a result, they need some technology. If you speak to these folks, they're a really nice bunch, by the way. I speak to data scientists all the time. They're really good. They're just trying to solve problems. A lot of the time, they're not really technologists. So they need to engage with their partner organization. So if you find them, talk to them. They're not going to talk to you about maths. They're not going to talk to you about AI algorithms. They're going to talk to you about the fact that they don't know how storage arrays work, or things are taking too long. And you say, great, we can help you with that.
Yeah.
Because we understand technology. So we know how to deploy technology that is going to accelerate your data science.
And reduce the pain points that they have.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. So yes, if you find data scientists inside organizations, just go and talk to them about how you can help make things go faster and smoother, and they will absolutely listen to you. And also, they're aligned to the business. So whereas we see in traditional IT, it's much more about a cost reduction, cost control, you know, glide paths from a cost perspective. Data scientists are engaged with business.
Yeah.
So you're talking about different budget regimes associated with how they buy technology. And also, I think there is a big gap between the data science community and IT. So talking some of the overlapping language and helping data scientists understand how they translate their needs into IT, and IT, how they can talk to the data science community, absolutely is a space for partners to really thrive and ultimately drive and go after business level investment instead of IT level investment.
So cross the scary void into the data scientists, and everything will be a lot more successful for us.
Yeah,
Don't be scared.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And they are really nice. But they're under pressure and they're trying to solve business level problems.
Yeah.
And if you can help them with that, then absolutely they'll be the partners. You'll end up being the partners they want to work with.
So I know there's been a long-standing relationship with NVIDIA, but it feels like things have escalated and there's been a lot of work being done recently. Can you elaborate? Tell us a little bit about what's going on with that partnership?
Yeah. So a lot of people don't know this. So HPE created our first Centre of Excellence with NVIDIA, specifically focused at computer vision in 2013.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I'm sure if you look at the NVIDIA share price back then versus now, it's been a pretty big change. But recently, so Antonio Neri has announced on some big announcements at Discover over the past 12 months, key partnership with NVIDIA, which is all about how we take AI into the mainstream using both HPE and NVIDIA technology together. And we're cutting code with them. That's the level of engagement that we've got, where we're bringing the NVIDIA GPU acceleration, the NVIDIA enterprise stack, and some of the work that NVIDIA have been doing in the generative AI space, together with what HPE is calling the HPE AI Essentials. So between those two products coming together, very tight integration that allows you to plug them into your enterprise-grade security, you've got a huge platform for accelerating your AI workloads. And what we've realized is a lot of organizations struggle with how they put this stack together, because HPE, we're hugely behind open source initiatives. And as a result, a lot of organizations might feel slightly daunted about bringing an open source initiative in on-prem. How do you support it? How do you maintain it? How do you have skills around it? All of those kind of challenges. And that's why we've created an appliance, which is a top-to-bottom stack. It's got NVIDIA from a GPU acceleration perspective, as well as NVIDIA networking. So you've got confidence around all of the high-speed networking and configuration at a GPU level, all of the management capabilities, as well as the HPE AI Essentials, which gives you the lifecycle management piece. Of course, hopefully everyone's heard of HPE GreenLake, which is the management plane that lives across the top of that. So all of this is available under GreenLake, which means that you get a pane inside GreenLake, a panel that you can click on that gives you the private cloud AI, which is the top to bottom stack, with all of the management capabilities that you'd expect as any deployment inside GreenLake.
I think there's a really good opportunity here with the GreenLake message when we're thinking about these AI solutions, because we're mostly looking at, we're going to be using new kit, new technology for this, right? And to be able to ramp up in the way that you can do with the as a service methodology, I think it really does lend itself very well to that. So in terms of the solution that you've created, just to clarify, these are ready-made solutions that are ready to go to deploy onto an AI solution.
Yes,
correct.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
So if you've got organizations who want to do anything with AI, then absolutely. So whether or not they want to do something around inference, which is running AI, whether or not they want to do retrieval augmented generation, or whether or not they want to do model fine tuning, we've got a pre-configured, ready to go stack with a collection of open source tools which HPE manages. Because if you want to go into the AI world, it's all Kubernetes based, which is a very specific skill. You might not necessarily have those, or you've got other projects they're working on. So as a result, we'll provide all of the Kubernetes configuration and all of the stack on top of it that gives you experiment management, AI lifecycle management, model repositories, where you're going to put these things when you've built them. All of that is pre-integrated, ready to go.
And that takes a lot of work out of this whole scenario, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And this is what we've seen customers have wanted from us, because historically we've got some great AI technology, and we were heavily led by our high performance compute customers. We are the biggest high performance compute organization in the world. World's fastest supercomputer, HPE. Second fastest supercomputer, HPE. And our high performance compute customers said, actually, I want the Lego building blocks. I want to plug it all together myself. And we were probably a little bit overly led by them. And our shift is because our enterprise customers are saying, no, I don't want to, that's complicated stuff. I want you to provide me with all of the tools I need for my data scientists to be up and running really quickly. I want you to manage it. When new versions of open source tools come out, I want you to evaluate them, make sure they're fit and they're ready, and then deploy them onto the platform for me. So we've seen this sort of shift in terms of what we've been doing over the past 12 months to being much more enterprise focused in terms of the stack that we provide. We still do the individual building blocks. So if you want the Lego building blocks, we can absolutely help you with that. But really, we're seeing this shift in the enterprise space to say, I want a top to bottom stack. I want to help plugging it into my enterprise grade security to pull it into my security realm. And then I just provide my data scientists with a URL where they can hit. I can do some role-based access control over the top of that, so I control how they access the resources, as well as providing the IT management plane, so I can feed and water it and do all of the kind of good stuff that IT want to do, but significantly de-risk the deployment of AI systems. And it has a huge accelerator on time to value for AI
I was
projects.
just about to say the time spent on doing all of that stuff, having it all pre-ready and designed is pretty powerful, right? So I don't know if this is just me or it's something that other people are thinking about. But will AI take my job?
That is a really interesting question. The short answer to that is no.
Thank you.
But I
Can I have that in writing, please?
Yeah. What I am finding is people who have a more than basic understanding of AI possibly will. So if you are AI literate, then you are of more value than is someone who is not AI literate. And as I said, AI is a tool. So understanding how to use the tools that you have available to you makes you more valuable.
Yeah.
So as a result, I'd recommend to anyone listening, it is all about getting up to speed. You don't need to understand the maths. That's my job. You don't need to understand all of the technical complexity, but you do need to understand how AI can be used effectively in your organization. And there are lots of risks associated with using it, which you also need to understand. And there are significant concepts called human in the loop. And one of the things that I do like to talk about, probably for a longer stage, there is this concept of a centaur. So centaurs are part human, part horse.
Yeah.
Anyone who's seen the Harry Potter movies,
Yeah.
they're a mythical creature. And we're seeing this in the form of centaur AI, which is humans and AIs are significantly more effective than either AI on its own or human on their own.
Okay, yeah.
Because it is
that.
all about using tools effectively. So absolutely get up to speed with it. Across all of our partner ecosystem, I say the whole same thing to everybody, even to our end customers. I say this internally, and I know that a lot of our executives do. Get that basic level of understanding of AI, how you can use it, and then ultimately you're doing two things. One is you're keeping up with the latest technology. The next is you're making yourself indispensable, and you are making yourself more valuable than the person who doesn't understand AI.
So what's next for AI?
Yeah, so
Scary question, right?
As I said, we could do a whole philosophy pitch on this. So I'll give you the technology view. Where we're seeing AI's play is how you could have multiple algorithms interacting together to operate more effectively. And this is so if you've seen some of the latest announcements from NVIDIA, they've released their NIMs, their inferencing microservices, and it's about how you can have multiple microservices interacting to provide a better outcome. So this is basically how can we make AIs collaborate together to drive something different. And a lot of that innovation is being driven by the autonomous drive world, where they're taking these things called neuro-inspired AIs and which are extremely complicated with much simpler logic-inspired AIs. And the reason is, if I have a neuro-inspired AI, it is very difficult for me to understand how it arrived at the outcome it arrived at, which is a common problem for AIs. Whereas logic-inspired AIs, you can ask it two questions. Why did you perform that action, and what are you going to do next?
Okay.
So what we can do is we can build our logic into logic-inspired AIs. I'll give you an example from the autonomous drive world. You say to the logic-inspired AI, please proceed ahead. So it asks the neuro-inspired AI, which understands pictures, is there anything in front of me? Okay. The neuro-inspired AI says no. So the logic-inspired AI says, we will proceed ahead. And if you hit something, you ask the logic AI, why did you do that? Well, I asked this other AI whether or not it was safe, and it said it was. And then there's a problem with the neuro-inspired AI because it was just acting against the logic. And this is some of the things that we're seeing in the highly autonomous drive space, which is it's not all about extremely complex AI systems. It's about choosing the most appropriate AI technique for the problem you're trying to address.
Matt, thanks for all of those amazing answers. I think it's been great spending the time with you. So thank you for that. I'm pretty sure that going through this, I've got more questions, and I think there's a longer amount of time that we can spend on a numerous amount of those topics. So I'd love to get you back and discuss some of those in the future. But thank you very much for your time, and look forward to doing this again with you. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me. Really enjoy being here, and more than happy to come back and have some more conversations in the AI space.
Great. Thank you, Matt. Cheers.